Hi James, CAD technician engineer, and all the rest of you good people out there. The question on filtering components to spreadsheet in NX12. There are several ways of doing this, obviously, and I will go through a couple of them and see if there is anything in there for you. So here you could obviously have a massive assembly where you just want to filter a small subset. In this case, in the example, there was 3 components that needed to be filtered out. Let's see if we can achieve that for you and see where we go from there. So first things first, if I export this to a spreadsheet, the intention is to obviously reflect what's in the assembly navigator in an Excel spreadsheet, as the case here, together with all the columns that I have defined, obviously. So in this case we can see that everything is visible, and for this I could also in Excel, let's say I do not want to see model 1 and model 4. I could, for instance, hide those. You can search for hide, that will hide that, and it will filter everything. You could obviously, if you have a massive assembly, select the entire column and say that, hey, I want to see the assembly, so I'm holding down the control key. I want to see the assembly, and I want to see model 2 and a model 3, and do the same thing here. So we do the filter on those, hide, and we can see the assembly together with model 2 and 3. So that's the only thing I want to see. So that would be one way of filtering your stuff. The other way would be to simply do the same filtering in NX, and in this case let's say it's a massive assembly, meaning I would select the entire assembly, select assembly, and I want to still see the assembly node, obviously, model 2 and 3. If I use Control B for blank or hide, all the rest of the assembly will be hidden. If I now use the pop-up right mouse button, I could use filter components. If I filter components, everything will be hidden under the more button. If I now choose to export that to a spreadsheet, we'll see what will turn up in that spreadsheet. You can now see that it's filtered to only the information that I got here. So that would be the second way to do this. Now, with that said, I'm not sure how often or frequently this would occur in your specific case, but it might be that you actually want to do this more frequently. And if so, you probably have some fixed components that you need to have to be part of some sort of group or something like that. So you could potentially turn on the show component group. And here I can now, if I activated the component groups, I can now say that, let's say for this assembly, I select the assembly, and I deselect everything that I do not want to be part of this, or kind of what I want to see, I should say. So I deselect that guy, I deselect that because the model 2 and 3 is what I want to see. And I can now right hand click on that and add that to a new component group. So I could say that I call it filtered components simply. So that would be a typical describing what you are doing with this. I can now use that component filter simply by having everything selected. I could have that selected, and I can click it again, and it will blank everything that I do not want to see. So by this I can simply continuously control if I would do this frequently. So I can now do a filter components, and I have that packed again, and I do an export to Spreadsheet, and it will come back with the filtered version of the spreadsheet where I will see obviously the component, the original assembly, but also the groups as I have them visible. So if I compress that as well, let's say I do not want to see that, and if I export that to Spreadsheet again, we will have the whole thing compressed, and it will reflect only what I see in my assembly navigator. So that would be if you would do this continuously. That would conclude what I wanted to show, and I hope that this helps you further in your endeavors on filtering your components in the spreadsheet. So that's all from Fred for now. Over and out. Take care, be safe. Bye for now.